Ontario government announces new measures to blunt latest wave of virus cases. Dan Cearns, local journalism initiative reporter for The Standard. North Durham, Kawartha. With COVID-19 case numbers rising to record highs in Ontario, the provincial government has introduced more measures. As of Wednesday, January 5th, the government is not allowing indoor dining at restaurants and bars. However, outdoor dining will be allowed, as well as takeout, drive-through, and delivery. Gathering limits are being reduced to 5 people indoors and 10 people outdoors. Indoor weddings, funerals, and religious services will be limited to 50% capacity of the room they use. Indoor concert venues, theaters, cinemas, museums, and galleries will be closed. The immediate goal of these measures will be to blunt the latest wave of COVID-19, so we can ease the pressure on our hospitals, Premier Doug Ford said at a press conference. The Ontario government also announced a change to the school reopening schedule. We need to prioritize the continued health and safety of our kids and our school staff. As a result, we'll be delaying the return to in-class learning for the next 2 weeks and continue with virtual learning for the duration of the time away, Premier Ford explained. Originally, the government planned to allow in-person learning on Wednesday, January 5th, but now students will not return to school until at least January 17th. Ontario building new childcare spaces for families in Brock Township. Kayleigh Ortwin, Office of Laurie Scott, MPP. Sunderland. The Ontario government is investing $1.6 million to create 49 new childcare spaces at Sunderland Public School to help working families in Brock Township. This investment is part of the government's commitment to support affordable and accessible childcare in communities across the province. Once complete, the project will provide 1 infant room, 1 toddler room, and 1 preschool room through the province's Early Years Capital Program. Our government is investing in the next generation of Brock Township and delivering real support to hard-working families with a $1.6 million investment, which will create 49 new childcare spaces, explained Laurie Scott, MPP for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock. We know the pandemic has left families in need of additional supports, and that's why our government introduced the Ontario Child Care Tax Credit and provided over $1.7 billion in direct support to families during the pandemic. The expansion at Sunderland Public School and Durham District School Board is part of a province-wide investment of more than $600 million to support school and child care spaces. The overall investment will support 78 school and child care-related projects. As part of this investment, the province dedicated more than $95 million to create more than 3,000 new childcare spaces through renovations and additions at 55 childcare centres across Ontario. Access to childcare is vital to support our students and their families. I want to thank the Province of Ontario and welcome this timely investment to increase childcare capacity at Sunderland Public School. We look forward to starting construction on this project, stated Chair Carolyn Morton, trustee of the townships of Brock, Scugog, Uxbridge. Across Ontario, the province is supporting the creation of 40 infant rooms, 400 new spaces, 59 toddler rooms, 885 new spaces, 71 preschool rooms, 1,704 new spaces, and 7 family age group rooms, 105 new spaces. The announcement supports Ontario's childcare plan, which focuses on making childcare more affordable, providing more choice and availability for families, reducing red tape and administrative burden, improving quality, and effectively delivering high standards of care. After years of neglect under the previous government, we are stepping up to support families by investing in affordable and accessible childcare which meets their needs, said Minister Leachy. These investments are key to our economic recovery and further evidence of how our government continues to lead the way when it comes to investing in childcare. As part of this plan to make childcare affordable, safe, and accessible, Ontario has committed up to $1 million to create up to 30,000 new childcare spaces over 5 years. To date, over 23,000 new spaces have been approved and built upon Ontario's existing and well-established childcare infrastructure, giving families more choices and flexibility. The Ontario government has allocated more than $600 million to support ventilation improvements in schools across Ontario, as part of its plans for a safer return to school. the Durham District School Board has benefited from an investment of $9.4 million for ventilation improvements and has over 660 HEPA filter units in place. The Caped Cearnsader. Take action. Dan Cearns, The Standard. Welcome to 2022, a new year with new possibilities. However, it is also year 3 of the COVID-19 pandemic. Ontarians have been through a lot in the last couple of years. That is why I have a recommendation for politicians and high-ranking health staff. Don't talk about the end of the pandemic or defeating COVID-19 until we actually do it. The changing landscape of health measures can be equated to a roller coaster ride in the last couple of years. At times, high levels of cases have been reported, leading to stricter gathering limits, the temporary closure of certain businesses, and other health-related measures. Then, when cases start to lower, the governments have eased these measures. The conversation always seems to start about the apparent light at the end of the tunnel. But then the pandemic continues to follow this up and down trend of health-related measures. I think hope is an important thing, but it has to be used at the right time. If you get people's hopes up too many times, only to have them dashed again and again, people will eventually believe less and less this pandemic can be defeated and possibly tune you out entirely. It can be confusing enough for people to try to keep up with the ever-changing rules and regulations, but to be told we're nearing the end of this pandemic, only to have new measures added later, it adds to everyone's confusion. Right now, caution is most important, not just for people to exercise in their day-to-day lives in order to stay safe, but also for COVID-19 messaging. It's best to be absolutely sure before talking about the near future. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying don't talk about anything pandemic-related. I think it's important to share information about where we are in this pandemic and what the plans are moving forward. My point here is to caution against giving people hope too early or possibly giving false hope. Yes, I believe this pandemic can be defeated eventually, but until we know for sure the battle is won, it might be best to hold off on declaring it over, nearly over, or talking about any light at the end of the tunnel. Walk Softly, The Computer and the Naturalist. Geoff Carpentier, special to The Standard. In my last column, I had started a discussion on whether computers, online resources, and social media make us better naturalists. You might recall I was torn about the answer, as in some cases the outcomes are positive, but in others they are not. Let's delve further into the subject, shall we? I recall spending time in Madagascar a couple of years ago and seeing many interesting birds. I photographed a hawk I thought was a Malagasy harrier, but was surprised when one of the moderators of a science-based online group I subscribed to said I was wrong. He said it was, in fact, a pallid harrier. The most surprising outcome is despite the error I made, it was the first record of a pallid harrier ever documented for Madagascar. So my mistake turned into a fantastic success. Thanks to social media, this important observation was not lost to science, and I learned something. The point is, I did try to do my research and made an identification mistake because the field guides available, both online and in print, at the time had poor quality photos of the expected hawk, and someone with greater expertise spotted my error, reached out, and taught me something. That's the way it should work. But can we always count on someone out there checking our findings and telling us we did good or not? Simply stated, no, we can't. Many folks mine social media platforms for information, and the outcome is sometimes amazing. I see many colleagues looking at all types of Facebook pages and other forums looking specifically for rare species that were either misidentified or not reported to the scientific community for many reasons. One incredible find was made in 2018 when a novice birder posted a photo on iNaturalist of a flycatcher she had seen but couldn't identify using her Canadian bird books. She tried to identify the bird but couldn't because it wasn't in her book. Why wasn't it? Well, it was a great kiskadee, a common Central American species, but never before seen in Canada. Someone saw her post, helped her identify it, and then told the birding community. There were a lot of happy birders as a result, and the science was improved as the bird stayed a long time, so food preferences, hunting techniques, and vocalization studies ensued. Just recently, someone reported a northern saw-whet owl near Stony Creek, but it was misidentified and was the much rarer boreal owl. Once again, someone spotted the error, and many birdwatchers got to see it. I have also seen many sightings posted asking for help where respondents were absolutely wrong in the advice they gave. So the observer needs to take advice with a grain of salt and check other resources, using the respondent's advice only as a guide, not as a definitive identification. I want to reiterate, people must try to find the answer themselves and then reach out to others for clarification or confirmation if they want to improve as naturalists. There are many apps out there to help. Many are free and quite good, others cost a few dollars. The best free bird app I can recommend is Merlin. This is written and supported by Cornell University. It has details on bird ID, calls and songs, habitats, and range maps. It is an invaluable resource with bird lists for many parts of the world. I truly wish something like Merlin had existed in my youth, as this single source of information is amazing. The one drawback is that you have to identify the birds to a family to gain the best advantage. Another app I like is iNaturalist, which covers many aspects of natural history study. And other subscribers help with the identification. The science behind this is strong, and the outcomes are surprisingly fast and accurate. I will continue next time with more on the subject. Geoff Carpentier is a published author, expedition guide, and environmental consultant. Visit Geoff online on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.
12 Ways to Take With Us. There is a fun song sung around Christmas time, which, early on, was used as a mnemonic device for various subjects. This song is the 12 Days of Christmas. A mnemonic device is a wordplay system used to aid memory, usually used to remember important dates, list categories or information, or to recall sequences in a procedure to help follow the overall process. My wife and I took a memory building seminar a few years back, and we learned to use memory tricks. A few years. It was more like 15 years ago. That just proves this memory thing takes more than just a quick fix. We must put these tools or devices into practice. Otherwise, they can't aid us in retaining anything of value. That brings to mind the idea of committing to resolutions. They work the same way. If we don't use it, we lose it. That's called practice. We sometimes do this in the negative sense by mentally or emotionally rehearsing our worries or fears. Unfortunately, this has a tendency to cause us to recognize things around us that are similar, and so promotes a life of negativity. So, if practice is a way of holding on to things, we can apply this to good things we value. As an extension of this, I think a good practice would be to recall the good things we've picked up over the year of 2021. Let's see, how about having privileges withdrawn, like unrestricted access to restaurants, concerts, movies, or social gatherings, can really make us appreciate how good we've had it in our Canada and can make us grateful for the things we still have. During COVID, spending more time with family, the ones we are born to, may have been a little more strenuous at first, but now it gives us the opportunity to reconnect and learn to appreciate family is really a good thing. Consequently, we may want to spend a little more time with them even after this finally passes one day. In the meantime, we have time now. The reduction of services in our community has allowed our taxes to be used for more important things. So losing some things can be good when it creates more overall security. Trusting is more than just words. We have to release our lives to the influence of others at times because we are all in this together. Control is an illusion. If we won't see this, we stay in anxiety. Yet when we let go, we can learn to manage the things closer to home, especially in our hearts, and that can take care of the impact of much of the rest. Many have revisited the role God can have in helping their lives and have found Him attentive and able when we release to His ways. Helping our neighbors is not being a chump. Instead, it helps us to become a champ, less afraid, and better people. Volunteering in our community is a way of socialization that is much needed in order to share the load. This protects the lives of others from burnout and gives you needed connections in your life. Deferring gratification, the art of waiting out the impulse so as to gain perspective, can help us in so many areas of life. Waiting for a sale to come around somewhere can bring the quiet joy of anticipation, like hunting. We can also try no-name brands and find out some are as good or even better than some of the name brands. Instead of feeling like we have to spend when or whatever cost they ask for, money can go a lot further than you think if you live within your means. Taking time away from things and others can also be very helpful to bring clarity to thoughts, goals, and emotions. January 7th is the date for Ukrainian and other Orthodox Christmases, through the 12 days of Christmas on to the 19th. By the way, January 7th is also our daughter's birthday. What a day to be grateful for. Last but certainly not least, I love my wife. She is really a gift to be around. Wow, go figure. Once you get on this train of thinking, it's really not that hard to find things of value to take with you into 2022. I've enjoyed reminiscing and reflecting with you. Carry on, and happy seasoning.
The Standard Podcast was produced by Greenstream Studio for the Standard newspaper.